have actually written down an introduction to these people. And I'm trying to get into the modern age by doing it on my phone. So let's introduce my first guest. I'm very pleased to introduce the king of the track saw, the master of the jig, from the 10-minute workshop where 10 minutes is never enough. Peter Millard.
Thank you. Thanks, Stuart.
Our next guest showed us how to sharpen everything in your workshop or even fit out a transit so you can sleep in it. So from the YouTube channel of the same name, Matt Estlea. My next friend on stage has just bought another property and is spending her time completely renovating it and doing a lot of work in the garden. I know her as Vikkie, but you probably know her as the carpenter daughter. Vikkie Lee. So our next guest is a great carpenter who has battled adversity to do what he's doing at the moment. And he's got some great pieces for sale on our stall that maybe you can have a look at afterwards. And if you haven't seen him, I'm sure that he'll appreciate taking a couple of questions from you. From Hand Eye Craft, it's Leo.
Oh. Hello.
And lastly, but not least, obviously someone that I was watching for many years before I even started filming any of my work, the classic British DIYer, and he's even got his surname is DIY as well. I don't know how that works. It's just very good. Charlie D.I. White. Right, so I've got a couple of questions for my patrons that I'll kick things off with, and then I'll come round and take some questions from the audience as well. And the first thing that my patrons, more than one of them has asked me to ask some of these, is why did they start a YouTube channel? What made you, in your garage or in your bedroom while you're sort of painting or doing some plumbing, actually turn a camera on and start a YouTube channel? Because it's not something that we're sort of used to, but sometimes we do it. So that first question goes to our DIY guru at the end there, Charlie. Why did you start a YouTube channel?
Well, I've been doing DIY all my life. I've had a drill in my hand since I was about 7 years old, probably. In my job, in one of my first jobs I had, I was walking around the office with a pencil behind my ear, so I think it was always written in the stars in a way, but fundamentally, I just really didn't enjoy what I was doing at the time. And my little sis, who was in the industry, said, why don't you set up a YouTube channel? And this was back in 2014. And I still remember it today as one of those sliding doors moments. And I just said to her, what a fantastic idea. Yes, I will. And yeah, so unlike Stuart, who hit the floor very fast and
I learned everything from you.
Grew his channel very quickly. I started in 2014 with very loud, cheesy music that played throughout the entire video. And I started very slowly, hardly any subscribers for the first few years. And when people did watch a video, they said, love the video, but please turn off that music. But it's been great. It was a great release from the old day job. I used to do videos at the weekend, just making it up from the content that I'd recorded. Nowadays, it's a bit more considered. I do scripting a lot more. It takes a lot longer to do the videos, which brings in its own problems. But basically, that's the reason, and it was just a really lovely sort of antidote, second career, if you like, from the stress of the old day job.
Excellent. Thank you, Charlie. And look where you are now.
Yeah.
Right. The same question, why did you start a YouTube channel? And that's Leo.
All right. Interesting one. Well, to be honest, starting off, Stuart, a hint of imposter syndrome here because I was watching these guys on YouTube before I decided to start my own YouTube channel. I think, for me personally, I took up woodworking after this happened, after I lost the use of this. So I started watching these guys and trying to figure out a way how I could adapt things single-handedly for one-handed use. And the kind of disability woodworking thing was a very niche, almost non-existent thing at the time. So my motivation then was, should I start documenting this for other folk to see? And that's how I kind of started out. Post-accident, and I've been quite open with this, I had significant issues around my mental health as well. And it was kind of really to help myself in my own physical and mental recovery, because if you watch my early videos, I was never in front of the camera, I never spoke, there was little pop-ups, you just saw my hand doing things, and it helped really rebuild my self-esteem and my self-confidence. So I'm extremely thankful for the people who follow me. Been so fortunate just to hit 15,000 subscribers yesterday, which is, I'm just so happy about that. And thank you very much for everyone who follows. And thank you to these guys who've been fantastic mentors and thank you as well. Cheers, mate.
Well, there's nothing like asking you to be on stage in front of all these people to even stress you a little bit more, but I hope you enjoy yourself. Right, the next question from my patrons. One of the challenges we all have making videos week after week is coming up with ideas. So the next question is, where do you come up with your ideas, and how difficult is it to come up with ideas? And we might as well carry on going along the line. Vikkie, where do you come up with your ideas?
Well, this is working, isn't it? I can't really hear myself. It starts off usually where I punish myself living with something that doesn't function right for months or years, and then force myself to think, I can't live with this anymore. I'll finally just do a basic screw repair, and then I start looking on either Pinterest or online for ideas I forgot the procrastination between then, and then trying to figure out what will work for me. Sorry, I hope that was helpful.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Matt?
Video ideas, is this coming through, yeah? Video ideas from us come from all kinds of sources. Sometimes I just wake up in the middle of the night with an idea and that's it, done. Like the river table that I did, where there's an actual river table going through it. That was just a wake up in the middle of the night, can't sleep anymore because I'm too busy thinking about it. Sometimes we'll just chuck down a load of random ideas on a piece of paper until we get something that's good. There's that whole technique of going through a dictionary and finding random words for inspiration. Like, I don't know, some random noun, and you're like, how could I build that into a woodworking project? It can come from anywhere. I just have some sort of way of noting it down and then also qualifying them afterwards, thinking objectively about which one's going to perform well, which one's not, which one do you like that actually is going to be pretty rubbish. It's, you know.
I love your graveyard sketch-up of Campervan.
Oh, yeah.
Just go like 20 different versions.
That's it. We approach videos in the same way that I approach projects, where you come up with an idea and then you sort of develop it and refine it as you go until you've got something that hopefully performs, most often not. But
Cool. I've never used a dictionary to come up with an idea of a DIY project. But Peter,
Matt, did you use a packet of Maltesers as an idea for one? That was an absolute.
That's it. Sometimes I go to the sweet shop for inspiration as well. Yeah.
probably one of the longest running channels, other than Charlie at the end
Charlie's
there.
a bit longer, I think.
How, after all these years, are you coming up with ideas?
I tell you what, I'm going to stand if that's okay, because there's a few people at the back there that can't quite see. The ideas kind of come. I mean, I have used ChatGPT rather than a dictionary to come up with a couple of ideas. They're usually terrible, but mostly they're from things that I either need or I just think I want to make. And I'm in a fortunate position where I can largely make things that I want to make. And a bit like Matt, you kind of come up with an idea and maybe you develop it or you iterate on it until it becomes something else. And then usually, just as you think it's finished, you think, oh, hang on, I can do something else with that and I can make it a little bit better. So the ideas just come, I tend to come up with the ideas in the workshop rather than elsewhere. Because a bit like you, Matt, I like a pile of bits in front of me to like adult Lego blocks and put them together to see how it all fits and see if you can make something out of it.
Nice one.
Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Right, now it is your turn to ask these five, and maybe if you want to ask me a question, I don't know what. So I'm going to take questions from the floor. Does anyone have a question for my... Well, I hope we do, else it's going to be a very long half an hour. Anyone's got a question? Yes.
Are there any questions you wish the audience would ask?
Are there any questions you wish the audience would ask? Now is your opportunity to answer a question that hasn't been asked.
Oh, man.
Anyone want to show off? Charlie?
How about I'm a free video filmer and editor. Would you like me to work for you?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Vikkie?
I'm saying the same.
Same again.
Yeah, no, that's a winner, that. That's the one, if anyone's there. Yeah.
I've got one. Why can't your husband do the video editing? That would save me a lot of time.
I wish my husband would do the video editing.
I've been stitched up. I'm doing the DIY and the videos. And my dinner's not even cooked for me when I'm home.
At least you've got a helper now. You used to be on your own. Right, let's have another question. Anyone from around here? Question. All right, the way down the back. I'm getting too old for this. Yes, sir.
Some of your projects seem to take forever. I'm just wondering how your other halves managed to put up with you.
I know that feeling, yes. So some of the projects last forever. What about your other halves? Have they got the patience to bear with you?
Maybe
Peter.
it's other halves who should be answering this.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch the question. Sorry.
Some of the projects last forever.
Yeah.
How does your other half, your wife, put up with that?
Oh, yeah. I have a long list of projects at home, and the problem is that if you do a project, then you have to shoot video on it, of course, which generally makes it last about 3 times longer anyway. So, yeah, it's quite good to not start them, I find. Just keep them on the list, and that way they just they keep going. And, yeah, but the other half has the patience of a saint, fortunately. So, yeah, there's that.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, I think that question was probably aimed at me a little bit because we moved out.
We're not talking about your kitchen extension, are we?
Well, we moved out of our bedroom for a year, and that's the point. Sometimes on a really big video, it can take a week editing 7-8 hours a day to put a video together. And I think a lot of people probably think that this is the most privileged job on the planet, but it is hard work and you never unplug from it. I think most YouTubers are probably workaholics. A lot of them have 2 channels. I think, how on earth do they do that? Because I struggle to get one video out every 2 to 3 weeks. But yeah, the bedroom, we were out of it for a year. I built some wall-to-wall cupboards. That ended up being a 7-video series because I couldn't do it. It was too big a project to do in one video. And the kitchen we moved out of, it's about a year ago. We moved back into the new kitchen last week. So I think I have got a long-suffering partner, but it's also a financial sort of incentive. Doing a lot of this work, I don't cost my time. I don't feel I need to because, I'm producing videos. I probably should cost my time. But at the end of the day, you don't earn a massive amount of money doing this. So if you're actually doing the work yourself, you're saving yourself money, and you're ending up with a product that you might not otherwise have been able to afford. That's it.
Can I just see a show of hands? Who started a DIY project and it's taken about 3 times longer than you thought?
Yeah.
So I think everyone has the same, when you say to your wife, we're going to be back in the bedroom just 3 days and it's all going to be done. And 2.5 months later, it's like, why aren't we back in the bedroom? So I think we all suffer the same grief. Right, another question. Let's take some from this. Oh, here we go. Questions, mister.
Being perfectionists in your actual work, how do you get to a point when you know that a video is ready to upload?
Because everyone is an absolute perfectionist, aren't we? Yep, absolute, yep. So when do you think, that's it, I've got enough edited,
That's interesting.
so I can now put it out and it's going to be the correct video? Leo?
I think I can't speak for everyone, but I think if you ask someone who creates content, are they ever actually truly happy 100% with the video that they put out? the answer will probably be 9 times out of 10 no. There's always something they think they can do, and if they watch it back, and then there's always things that you can improve on. You've got to have a threshold at some point though, where you've got to say, that's enough now. That's it for me, you know, you think. But strangely, some of the best performing videos can also be the ones that you've just thrown together at last minute and just cobbled together a rough edit, thought actually put that out. And some of my most successful videos have been that, which have actually been, in retrospect, quite shocking, you know, but they have got this kind of views. So sometimes if you mull too much over one bit, you know, an extra second and a half there, they tend to, you know, you can get a bit too much involved in that process, I think.
No, and if you're not careful, the video never goes out, and you end up not posting anything. The one thing I have found is I'll look at a video that I posted a year ago and think, I should have changed that bit, or I should have changed that bit, but at the time, you've already watched it about 50 times yourself during the editing process, and it's just, I've just got to get this finished and out. And then when you look at it years later, I wouldn't do it that way again. So it's annoying, but at some point you just got to finish and get the thing posted.
I think if you can get it like 80% perfect by your own standards, and then on the next video you improve that just a little bit more, eventually your capacity within that 80% will just naturally increase anyway. And so if you're making incremental improvements and you're getting it close enough, anything beyond 80% is diminishing returns. You're changing a transition here and there, or changing the way you inflect a sentence or something like that. Beyond that, it's not really worth it. If Rob and I can agree on 80% of a video, then we know we're onto a winner, I think.
Very good question. Thank you for that. Right, let's move on to the next question. I see a hand go up there. Just bear with me, I'm not as young as I used to be.
Which YouTubers do you follow?
Which YouTubers do you follow?
These guys. That's an easy one for me.
Yeah.
Peter, Vikkie, which YouTubers, other than me, of course? What else do you watch?
If I need to problem solve on something, I don't generally follow somebody ritually, but I tend to find myself coming across the same videos, the same faces, particularly as well, Gosforth Handyman. He's done a video on everything, and Charlie, Dot and Dab, or all of these extra things. But it is hard enough to sort out your own schedule, so I must admit I am guilty of not following somebody completely, other than, at the moment, allotment videos.
Yeah, we've noticed, actually. Peter, who do you watch?
I watch a number of people, obviously everybody here. Adam Savage is fascinating. He has a tiny workshop by American standards. It's only 4,000 square feet. No, it's about 450 square feet, which is relatively small by American standards, about half as big as mine again. He's very interesting. He does a very quite technical sort of builds. And outside of the sector, I've been following a guy called London Eats, who is a Deliveroo driver, and he just does a night shift in London and just records the mad things that happen during his shift, which is fascinating. Other than that, the general crew, really, obviously Andy, Gosforth Handyman, a few others too, yeah.
I'd say whoever's posting funny cat videos, that's usually who I'm watching these days. Yeah.
Cat videos?
Yeah, generally, yeah.
I would recommend an up-and-coming channel, actually. He's really getting into it, and if he gets some traction, he's going to do really well. He did our warm-up act an hour ago. It's called Colin Furs. You should check him out. Yeah. It's nice of him to get things rolling for us.
Is he here?
I don't think he's got a stand. He just popped in on the freebie, I think. Right, let's have another question. Let's jump here.
Obviously, for your channels, you guys buy a lot of tools, fixings, materials. How do you manage the space? How difficult does it get?
So we all buy lots of materials. Sometimes we're lucky to be given tools as well. Before you know it, a small space can be completely overwhelmed. Who wants to... Hands up for who wants to answer first.
Well, I'll do it.
There we go. It's one of the smallest spaces, I think.
Yeah, I give mine away, is the short answer. I give mine away to channel members. whether they've been purchased or whether they've been gifted to the channel for review. I just have a clear out a couple of times a year. I do have an awful lot of track saws still. That's my fault.
I didn't realise you use a track saw, Peter.
I know, it's uncanny. But I just have a general clear out periodically, and I give it away, and it's fantastic. A lot of the power tools are 240 volts, and a lot of my members are abroad, so it does sort of limit it a little bit. But it's really nice to have people come to the workshop for a 10-minute tour, pick up the tool, have a chat, and it's a good way of doing it. Suits me.
Okay, fair enough. So rather than just building a bigger workshop, you just continually clear out.
Yeah.
Leo, you must have got a lot of kit in the last couple of years.
Perhaps, yeah. I think personally I'm quite fortunate that my workshop by UK standards is quite big. It's 7.3 metres by 3.6, so it's bigger than a single garage, which most people work out of. I had what I'll describe as a moment of clarity recently, because I suddenly realised the walls were just closing in on me, and it was just pieces of wood that were just, and before I know it, I'm kind of like this trying to get in. So I had the situation, thought, I've got to scale down a little bit here, so the wood went into the garage, so it no longer became a wood store. But for me, it's just about prioritising now, really, about my setup. I don't use a table saw. They can take up a lot of spaces. I go with the band saw, track saw sort of setup, really. It's just safer for me to use it that way as well. And also, everything on casters. That idea? Because if you're in a single garage and things come open, if it's a nice day, you can clear out some of the tools, give you a bit more space if you're making larger items and stuff. So that would be my one recommendation. Get your workbench, get all your tools on casters, and it's easy to move stuff about.
It's quite important, actually, because unless you've got the room to do things, it's nice having new tools, but you do need the room to actually do things. Now, a friend of mine came round to my workshop about 2.5 years ago, and it's Keith Brown of Rag and Bone Brown. I'm sure you've seen the channel. And he said to me, I'm fed up with people giving me tools because I haven't got any space left. And I thought at the time, you're lucky to be in a position where you're fed up with getting free tools. Fast forward 2.5 years, I now can't get into my workshop because I have boxes I haven't even opened. And I also know that when I open the box, I've got to do a video. So I've now got lots of cardboard boxes that are gradually filling the workshop. Right, let's move on to another question. Something over here. Right, here we go. Yes, sir.
Talking about sizes of sheds and stuff, I've got an 8-foot by 12-foot shed. I have to have a chair in it. I got too many tools in it. I can't put them on casters because, again, I can't move. What do you recommend?
So an 8-foot by 12-foot shed obviously needs some room in it. What would you recommend other than building a bigger shed? Is that obvious? I don't want to...
What are you working with, solid wood or panels?
Solid wood.
Bandsaw, planer, miter saw. That's it for me.
Fair enough. That's
yeah, simple.
Leo, being a woodworker.
Your workbench, I said before, have them on casters, but make sure you've got plenty of storage shelves under your workbench, because that can be a lot of redundant space. So you can get some of the tools, or you get your sanders and stuff under there.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Let's have a question over this side. Here we go. Mr. OSB.
Yes.
What's your
Is that yours?
What's your least favourite hand tool?
Least favourite hand tool. Who wants to answer?
Anything
Charlie?
My least favourite hand tool.
Mine's easy, Charlie. Anything that requires two-handed use. So I'm a single-handed tool man, so that's my answer sorted.
And anything to do with sanding?
I think it's a really good question, that, because every tool has its use. I had this lovely little block plane, this sort of palms block plane, vintage Stanley block plane I bought just before lockdown. And I should say that's my least favourite, because I was planing a skirting board when all the hospitals were dealing with COVID, and I had this searing pain in my thumb, and I looked down, I couldn't see anything. And anyway, a splinter had gone in, and I thought, well, I can't go near hospitals because of everything that's going on. So I had to just dress it with a plaster for about a week, and suddenly one day I was tapping away on the keyboard doing some editing, and this little bit of wood suddenly started appearing at the end of my thumb, and I pulled it out with tweezers, and it was about that long.
Oh, yeah.
And so that should be my least favourite tool, my little block plane, but I love it because it's such a in a world now where electric tools are king. Sometimes the traditional things are absolutely fantastic, and you can't buy steel these days such good quality as the old vintage. I don't know whether you'd agree with this, Matt. So hunt around on eBay for some really lovely old tools.
Yeah.
I think Matt needs to answer this because hand tools is something that you're almost famous for.
Yeah,
What's
do you know
your
what?
least favourite, Matt?
I don't know what my least favourite would be. For some reason, a feeler gauge is coming to mind because it shows how bad your gaps are. So I try and stay away from them.
My one's all bent and covered in oil, but that's another question. Right, let's have another question. Here we go. Let's pass. Can you pass that down?
Hi, if you could give some advice to a new YouTuber, would you say quality or quantity is more important?
Hello.
Quality or quantity?
Good question.
Is this for YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so everyone's aware, the question was asked by Daisy Tempest, a luthier. Everyone should follow her.
That's a planted question, isn't it?
Yeah.
She knows you, doesn't she?
Definitely quality.
I'd say quality.
Quantity. Me and Rob have tried quantity. It was the worst experience of our lives. You end up selling your soul to the algorithm. It's a lost cause. Focus on quality, regardless of whether it's a week or a month or even half a year by this point for me and Rob to upload. It's always
Vikkie,
worth
quality or quantity?
I think it depends on your personal goal. If you are just getting started, and you want to learn new things, if you focus on quality as a novice, you probably wouldn't be able to put content out that much. So I would focus on, this is what I would do, is just break something down into little projects. And also, it's not, you could be the greatest skilled carpenter or whatever in the world, but if you're not marketing yourself very well, the video could actually do rubbish. And unfortunately, we're living in the times of you do have to create titles that create curiosity, which is why I probably don't look happy and smiley in my videos. And my husband said, why don't you just put, because smiley videos don't necessarily work, but just do what, just find out what your personal goal is, what you want to achieve. And something I always think is if a video or any content might not do very well at all, there's no point in doing something for the sake of it. So I always do something that I need to do. And if it's going to flop, it doesn't matter because I need to do it anyway. And I certainly don't have time to create content for the sake of it, and my husband would definitely moan because he wants things done yesterday. And I love the whole learning process. You've just got to evaluate your time. Unfortunately, people do put content out that we all think it looks rubbish, but it does amazing. I couldn't make a living doing cleaning videos. There's something out there for everyone. So yeah, you've got to be your own marketeer.
I think quality as well. I mean, I think we are all slaves to the algorithm in the sense that if you're not putting out a video every week, your channel will flatline rather than grow. But I think just from the point of view of staying sane and being engaged in what you're doing and enjoying what you're doing, I agree with Matt. I mean, I'm fortunate that my cottage has always driven the content. I will fix something and I think I might as well put it out there. I don't look to see whether that's going to go viral. I don't care. I just consistently put content out. It's what I've always done, and that's what I'll always do. Because
yeah, that's a fair point. And if in doubt, do what you're going to do around the house, because at least you're doing something rather than trying to make up a video. Yeah. Let's take another question over from this.
Sorry,
go on, carry on.
I think there's two parts to the answer to the question because the way we engage with social media is changing. I think long form content should always focus on quality, because even if that's not a regular output, short form stuff like shorts, reels, that kind of thing, you can kind of just throw them together because that might be kind of like a daily or every other day, so it's more like an update on what you're doing. So the kind of short form stuff, maybe a little bit more quantity, because that's like, you know, today's used, tomorrow's fish and chip paper, isn't it? Whereas the long form stuff's always there, and that focus on that should be quality, I think.
Thank you, Leo. Any questions from over here? Let's take one. I'll come round. Hello. I'm getting too old to do this. So. You did have to sit over this side, didn't you? Yes, sir.
Simple one. What editing software would you suggest?
What editing software would you suggest?
DaVinci.
Let's go down the line.
DaVinci every day. DaVinci Studio 18, 17, whatever we are at the moment.
Leo?
If you're an Apple man, iMovie, getting started.
iMovie?
I used to love Sony Vegas, or whatever it's called now, because it was a one fixed rate, but my computer couldn't cope with it. So now, unfortunately, I'm on the subscription model with Premiere Pro, but I use the rest of the photography package.
Yep. We use Premiere Pro, don't use Premiere Pro.
Premiere Pro?
Final Cut.
Final Cut.
Started in iMovie, moved to Final Cut.
If you've watched my videos, probably the first 2 years to 2.5 years, I just used iMovie. So the thing you do find is you don't need anything more than your iPhone, something of good quality, and you don't need an expensive video editing software. So something like iMovie that comes with obviously every Apple Mac is more than enough to do 90% of what we do. After a bit, you want to put extra titles and graphics on, and that's when you start spending a bit more money. But actually, as I said, for the first 2.5 years, I just used a very free iMovie.
My first few YouTube videos were edited on a laptop that was so old, they took over 2 hours to render. 10-minute videos taking 2 hours to render, and then you discover a mistake in it, and you've got to re-render it again. Yeah, no fun.
That sounds painful. Right, another question from this chap down here. First hand up. There you go.
So how well are you supported by Patreon?
So Patreon, which obviously helps all of us, and something that we're probably all signed up to. How well are you supported? We'll come back to Peter last, I think, actually. Let's start at the other end. Charlie, Patreon?
Well, I didn't get into it nearly early enough. I've only been on Patreon. Buy Me a Coffee was the other one that I've sort of got running in tandem because I was too disorganised to decide which one I want to go with for the last couple of years. I just don't find the time to put enough on it. I've got a Discord forum which you get as part of the membership, which is the way I add value back because I'm on that every day. But, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort. The Peter and I don't know, Matt, they've probably got a lot more followers than I have. I've only got 100 odd, and so it doesn't bring in a lot of money really. But you're always told as a creator you've got to have as many sort of irons in the fire, as many income streams as possible. Going back to my point before, that you can't rely on AdSense revenue from Google alone. So it's a useful thing to have. I'm really enjoying the forum, the community I've built up, and actually I've learned a lot more from them than they have from me because they're all far more talented than I am. So it has other wins other than the financial.
I know the feeling, don't worry.
Yeah.
Leo.
Right. I don't have Patreon as such, but I have my own website, membership forum, £3 a month if you'd like to sign up. I've got about 50 members on that, so it's something I'm looking to grow this year. So I didn't go with Patreon or YouTube membership because they do take quite a slice of the take-in, so I just do it from my own one, which is via my website.
It's fair enough. Vikkie, have you got Patreon?
I do, but I do feel guilty that I don't always, and I should, find the time to post regularly on it. And I do appreciate some people are okay with me just... some people just want to support you.
Support the channel.
Yeah. But I also like to use the platform just to dump free plans on there. So if somebody wants to sign up for £1 a month, or they sign up for £1 and they've got access to all of them, and then they go. It's just a nice little home for all the plans on there.
You've got a number of Patreon levels, haven't you, Matt?
Yeah, too many. I guess, like, just to speak for maybe Charlie and Vikkie, creators don't take patrons for granted. We really do rely on, because that is basically the only stable income we get. I actually had to hire Rob specifically to help me out with Patreon. It is a two-man job to get it to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can't stay on top of it alone. If anyone is struggling to keep up to date with Patreon, it's not because they're taking you for granted. It is just another job in itself. So
I said we're going to leave Peter till last because when it comes to Patreon, Peter has got more patrons, and then you converted down to your own member worksite. So tell us how that works.
I had an interesting relationship with Patreon. Got to a stage where it just stopped growing, and I looked at how much Patreon was taking from the fantastic contributions that the Patreon supporters were giving, and I decided to take that sum of money and see if I could build something just to give everybody a better experience. I've no problem with Patreon taking a slice of what's provided, as long as you could follow that up with, and it's great value for what they provide, and that never happened. So I built my own membership platform, a little bit like Leo did, redeveloped my own website with my own members area, and the member platform is actually bigger than YouTube now, both in terms of videos created for it. I do two dedicated videos a week for the channel members, whereas I'm only doing one for YouTube, and in terms of income that it generates. So memberships are very important for me. It's another kind of wheel on the wagon, another leg on the stool that keeps things ticking along. Yeah.
What I would say is if anyone's thought about becoming a patron for someone they've seen on YouTube, give it a go, because you can stop it very easily. All you have to, if you want it for a couple of months, you can have it for a couple of months and then just cancel. It's easy to do that. But it does show a little bit of the behind the scenes of what we do in the background and the things we get up to. So we've just got another 5 minutes left. Let's have another question from this chap.
Thinking of the algorithm, how much effort do you have to put in to make sure videos cater to American audiences as well?
Before that, does anyone know the secret of YouTube?
I knew that would come in.
Yeah. If you find out, please let me know, yeah? So, when it comes to the algorithm and the American audiences, do you do anything specific for an American audience, or are you just aiming at UK?
I'd say one thing that I try, and it would wind me up as well, is sometimes I'll change pound to dollar in a title, and that does annoy. Yeah, that would annoy me. But I have heard, and you might have heard, that the RPM or the CPM. The CPM is cost per mil per thousand. I've heard an American audience. If you do attract an American audience, you'd get paid significantly more than here. But other than that, I think most of our audience is very small for American. Apart from Keith, the Rag and Bone Brown, he's surprisingly high.
Does anyone else do anything specifically for an American audience?
I think we might reword titles and stuff occasionally, but I think that's the cream on top. It's diminishing returns by that point. If your primary effort's in the video, it should do well regardless, I think.
Yeah, it's not an algorithm thing, or just as a point of politeness, because the US audience is almost exactly the same size as my UK audience. So I'll throw in the occasional American term like baseboard instead of skirting board, and I try and put dollar values in as well as pounds.
Sorry, if this would sway any purchasers, but not through affiliates or anything, but if you bought. If you invested in tools that were worldwide, like if I promoted something from ToolStation, it certainly wouldn't reach a wider audience. I have noticed, like when I've used something more international, the cost of the advertising fees do go up for that. But that shouldn't sway your choice. But it happens.
I do think I try and put sign of, as a courtesy, Imperial maybe up on a pop-up when you're talking metric, to try and appease the...
Yes.
I was going to say, nothing to do with the algorithm, but the one thing that I tend to do more often than not now is to talk about inches as well as metric, both for our American cousins and for the majority of my viewers who tend to be my age or older. They appreciate 8 inches rather than 200 mil, but I try to do that on everything, and it might upset a few people, but it's It's a bit like when you go to Eurovision and they talk in English and French and German all at the same time. So that's something I try to do all the time, and it may or may not help the American cousins watch. So I think one last question. Let's take it from over here. There you are, sir.
Hello. So I use woodworking to relax because my day job is very different. How do you guys all relax if you're spending all your time videoing and doing all of the making?
Sleep.
And the answer isn't
That's
heavy
it.
drinking.
Yes.
How do you relax? Or is it a 7-day-a-week job?
Yeah, that's a really good question. DIY has always been my sort of relaxation from the old job, and when you go from being even a part-time YouTuber to a full-time YouTuber, your hobby, when it becomes your day job, you cease to enjoy it as much as you used to. Absolutely. It's a real problem. But I'm one of those people who likes to do something when they relax rather than do nothing. So probably do some DIY around the house, but maybe not film it.
Yeah.
But then you're anxious
Yes.
because if you don't film something, it's the one thing that you do that would have made a really good video.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can never get away from it.
Yeah.
We're stuck in a doom loop.
The only problem with doing DIY when you're not filming it is halfway through, you're thinking, well, I would explain this like this, rather than just getting on with it. So what do you do to relax?
Exactly the same as Charlie. I give myself one project a year that isn't filmed, which I guess means I only relax once a year. Now I say that. Yeah. Same as you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now for me, just like you said, I still watch a lot of YouTube. Over the years, I've maybe watched less woodwork and DIY, but I watch other things. And I think that's pretty normal in our society now. We're not just watching television. We're actually, a lot of us are just watching YouTube all the time. So I think it's got a long way to go. And just like Vikkie said, where our American cousins are earning a lot more per 1,000 views, I think the same will happen in the UK as more advertisers realise that, like this audience here, is probably spending more time on YouTube than watching BBC or ITV.